Modular.
Tiredness was setting in for Tenzing with 50 miles to go, so a passenger made him a better leaf to keep him going.
Global Television, building the nation. Global Television, building the nation.
We talk about the Civil War, but we seem to ignore the fact that it was the manipulation of ethno-religious sentiment that eventually boiled over into that tragedy.
I think this is a negative part of what we're experiencing.
No shooting anymore.
We must come together as Nigerians.
We are brothers and sisters. Nigeria first before your politics.
We're all engaged in trying to keep
Peace and stability is extremely important for all.
My hope and prayer is that Nigerian of our dream will be achieved.
Global Television, building the nation.
I am for everybody, I am for nobody.
No, you not talk about me.
No, in another way.
How are you sure, sir? Keep quiet, right?
I am in another way. I am for everybody, I am for nobody.
The only area where Buhari defeats for that statement. Now we are project. When you are talking about project, the project is spelled as God. If you say you need to spell as God, what does it mean? But if you say appointment, and in a type of appointment, you appoint people to trust.
Very good morning. 7-6 in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Amuyi Agmofwegbe is the 5th day of the week, of course, the 4th day of the working week as we know it. We're here to contribute our quota as usual to the task of building the nation, which is what we have all been called to do, whether we realize it or not, across party lines, across affiliation, across religious inclination, and so on and so forth. Ultimately, we must make our contribution to building this great nation, which God has blessed us with. So this morning, we have quite a number of bilateral interactions with Nigeria, but then going forward, the concerns are what will be the difference we'll see now, what will be the policy direction as far as foreign relations between Nigeria and the United States. Quite frankly stated, means a whole lot to them as well. So we keep our fingers crossed to PDP and then Peter Obi of the Labour Party. I've also reacted to the call between Mr. Blinken and President-elect Tinubu, saying that it's a contradiction of that held on the 25th of February. But again, that's the negotiations, the horse trading that we're seeing has been, as they would say, quote unquote, nominated, all right, of Biamila. I said that some kind of concession, or if you like, compensation, all right, of the leadership or the decisions made with regards to the leadership of the 10th Forum. Mr. Delight, having you join us this morning on the program.
It's a pleasure. Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, viewers.
Great. I understand you're very interested in issues around national development, but then the legislative arm, all right, it's a critical element when you talk about national leadership, bickering back and forth that has been happening. How do you help us make sense of that quickly?
Well, Nigeria is a country that we all dream to live and see how leadership can give back to the people. But it's unfortunate that the leaders that either been elected or been selected or nominated only have their interest in doing their own bidding. The structure of Nigerian system is executed by lip services. We have the independency of the three arms of government. But in practice, it is a jamboree. I want to say this categorically, without fear nor favor, that the expectation of the larger Nigeria, on the incoming government, I think is wavering. The reason is that the outgoing administration of President Muhammadu Buhari did little to the interests of the larger Nigeria. And if by province or divine providence that the president-elect in the person of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, being the president-elect, will not do things differently, it means Nigeria are in trouble.
How does that impact or shape the 10th National Assembly in any way?
Why you have all these rancors of discussion, public reaction, is because of the pronouncement of the party leadership and the president-elect. In one of the program he had, precisely, I think in Port Harcourt or somewhere, he was to address the audience. He demanded that Senator Akpabio, the senator-elect, His Excellency Godswill Akpabio, should speak before he speak. And that, from that time, generate a lot of reaction right there in the venue. Now, when you are talking about National Assembly leadership, these are people who are elected in their various constituencies across the Federation. And the purpose of doing that is to do a check and balance of the executive and the judiciary. These are people who are being entrusted to deliver the dividends, to give back the message of development to the constituencies. So if we have a president or a president-elect that has not been sworn in, and the leadership of the party coming to the public to demand that this is the person they are interested to be the Senate president or the Speaker of the House of Representatives, I think this is taking Nigerians for granted too far. And with due respect to the president-elect, whom I so much have respect for, as a political strategist, misplace the strategic dynamics of politics of National Assembly. I think this is the first time I am seeing such to happen. And I believe that Nigerians are not happy. When you go out there, you hear a lot of conversation and reaction from the public. That is to tell you that Nigeria is not working and Nigeria is yet to work.
Ideally, the rationale behind the National Assembly is to provide representation, especially at the grassroots level. In fact, that's why all the states have senatorial districts. They have different constituencies, whether at the state level, for the state houses of assembly or the House of Reps, for instance. Talk to us quickly as to how this impacts the original goal, which is supposed to be for the representation of the people. Because at this point, obviously the priority is who gets what, who goes where. It's no longer about how do we bring issues affecting our people at the grassroots, particularly in the rural areas, all right, to the front burner. So what does this mean? What are the implications of this for the everyday Nigerian?
You see, Nigerians have not gotten the rightful representation across the federal constituency. In my research and in my observation and the level which I have gone around the country, you discover that the people who are representing the constituencies across Nigeria, they are either being selected by few individuals on the basis of party hierarchy. The party hierarchy in most cases has the power to allow who becomes the flag bearer of their political party. And that has given a lot of concern that the people who are being selected by this political hierarchy now prefer answering to the leadership of the political parties in the various states and constituencies. Now, until Nigerians themselves elect their leaders from the president to the councillor, then, believe me, we will not have the rightful development we need. Travel to any part of Nigeria, being it local government, being it state. Tell me, where in Nigeria do we have development at the grassroots level? What the governors or the senators are doing, or the House of Representatives, is to concentrate first to themselves And then maybe the little remnant, they either compensate the hierarchy or the people or the few individuals who selected them and maybe drop a project there which may be uncompleted project or an abandoned project. They prepare for the next election with the people federal constituency money that ought to be used in developing Nigeria. And that is why they did not put into consideration the people. Look at what is happening. If they put people into consideration, then why should the president-elect or why should few individuals who are just less than a quarter of 100% to decide who becomes the leadership? If you have an interest for Nigeria, if you have an interest for the citizens, then you allow the people that represent this larger Nigeria to constitute their leadership and let there be check and balances. So this action alone is already forecasting what the future of the 10th National Assembly is going to be. That is a reality.
Let's look at this whole drama we're looking at in front of us right now. It appears to be a reflection of how Nigerian political parties function on the inside. In other words, their internal mechanism, if you like, right? What does this say about internal politics in Nigeria beyond the APC? Because remember, in 2011, 2015, 2019, we had similar scenarios, but some will argue and say, well, it appears it's getting worse by the day. Is it even possible to reverse that trend?
Well, if you have something yesterday that is negatively affecting the country or the system, then if by divine, if Tinubu wouldn't have been declared the president, then something could have happened to him before that time.
In other words, God ordained it
of
for
course,
him to be the president.
So if he looked towards the direction of God, they were every instructed elect. But all of man's are recognized for him to be. Now, if things were done wrongly, and as a man whom I read him previously, I expected him to start from correcting the wrong. You see, he would have been best loved by Nigerians if he told the line of Nigerians now that he has been president-elect. But with what is happening now, I am not foreseeing anything different or differently from the previous administration or the current administration that we are in. By him, in the previous, what we used to know and we used to see previously, the president-elect, they don't speak themselves, they do it systemically. And that doesn't generate tensions and argument or reaction as it is now. But the moment he was declared president-elect, after his trip, and he came back, and look, Akpabio is a player in politics. We all saw what happened during the primary of APC. And smartly of Akpabio, and he played a very smart game. But I would have expected the president-elect to see those reasons and also to understand that he has been the
president-elect.
Of course. So he shouldn't have looked at who comes first to play games or pretend that he is withdrawing for Ahmed Bola Tinubu. I have told people that care to know in APC before the time that in APC the person they are thinking will not win the primaries because the strength of Ahmed Bola Tinubu is too heavy for any man to defeat him. Not the power that be of the current administration. And it came to pass. So if I were him, whatsoever that could have pushed him, or whoever, it means the cabal that is going to be in his government will be higher than the cabal of President Muhammadu Buhari. So there is no room or a kind of a call for him to accept the decision of the National Working Committee, because I believe accepting the decision of the National Working Committee, he instigated it. And mind you, it was not the choice of the APC, the people that control the system.
That's the president-elect.
The president-elect. He wasn't. If Ahmed Lawan, the distinguished senator and Senate president and the chairman National Assembly today, contested the presidency and lost at the primary and suddenly declared by the Supreme Court, then the president-elect should watch his back closely. Because there are agenda. You see, northern agenda cannot be undermined. If you undermine northern agenda in politics, then you are heading to maybe a bridge.
But then again, you find prominent politicians from the north and even political analysts saying that you don't undermine southern agenda. But I was going to ask you a question. What does this development mean for national unity? Because now we're talking northern agenda, southern agenda, and so on and so forth. Is it not supposed to be a priority number one to unify this country? Because as soon as President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu had been declared winner by the Independent National Electoral Commission, several prominent Nigerians, elder statesmen said to him, look, one of the things you must do for this country going forward is to unite the country across partisan interest, religious, and so forth. Are we not supposed to rally around the cause about national unity?
Of course, that is very, very important. But what has pronouncing Akpabio to be the next Senate president has to do with national unity?
Well, some people say it's a compensation for the South.
No.
You don't share that sentiment.
It is a compensation for stepping down and playing the road or clearing the road for Ahmed Tinubu as he presumed.
But then again, incidentally, he wasn't the only one, to use your word, who stepped down.
No. He played it first. He was the first person. And you know, in every operation, there are always reward. So he's possibly, being pronounced in order to be rewarded for his good job. Now, coming to national unity, it could have been a wake-up call that is so good and so interesting if he allowed the southern region to come together and look at where is it supposed to produce the Senate presidency. Already knowing fully well that the president-elect is coming from the southwest, then in the next thing, in the minds of people, when it is now zoned to the southern Nigeria, is between the south-south and the southeast. And if it is the southeast, the south-south and the southeast, in my own national unity interest, I could have advised that he should allow the southeast, eastern Nigeria, to bring whoever they want to be their Senate president. Because here we have the election in the history of Nigeria that I grew to meet, where you have the obedient movement, the articulated, and the Emilokon. So if the Emilokon has won the election and been declared, then you should know that the next thing to think, because the tension in the country, you can see what happened in the court, where somebody, I wouldn't say is unclaimed or is the party chairman or whatever they designated him, but I know that somebody was boosted out and was rescued by the security. So that is to tell you that till today there is tension in the country. And also, you could also see that the call by the American Secretary of State, either to Ahmed Tinubu, I don't know, I did not have my finding of the authentication of the call, but whichever, there is nothing wrong for American government to call Ahmed Tinubu as the president-elect to congratulate him. Now, why is it that people are making it a subject of discussion? It is because the election that ushered him as his president-elect, seen in the larger people, you know, in their view, that it was manipulated. And that is why everybody is interested in the court case. And if before now the American did not order, congratulated him, and is coming late, as the case may be, then it is obviously believed that the country has not been in the unity form that we all dream and wish to. So the southeastern Nigeria should be given the opportunity to produce the Senate presidency without debate.
Does the APC have a chance to do that?
Of course.
Given the decisions that have been made so
Of course. APC, there is no organization that has no review. You can review your system, you can review your agenda, you can review your manifesto, you know. So how much more? It is a mere pronouncement. Do they know what is going to happen at the field? National Assembly is such a place that you don't get what you expect when it comes to their leadership play. But I will use this forum to advise the president-elect to go back and play the game systemically, as is known to be a strategist.
So you think he can influence the direction
of
this leadership? Right?
Of course he can do that. Senator Akpabio is somebody that I know, if the president-elect call him and say, look, for the purpose of what the larger viewers or the larger Nigerians are saying, this is what we will do. He could go on the contest and then lost at the floor. He doesn't take anything. If they want to compensate him, he is from Niger Delta. Why don't they look around and give him one oil block if it is on the basis of compensation? Because we need to look at the national unity on the political structure across this country. The leadership structure must be considered, because leadership structure comes before whatever. So let them look at that as a key demand.
Okay, thank you so much, Honorable Loko Ogbaji Raphael, President, Middle Belt Patriotic Forum, for coming to share your thoughts with us on these very topical subjects this morning. We do hope you have a great day ahead of you.
Thank you.
We're taking a quick break, everyone. I'll be joined by another gentleman shortly, just to expand the narrative with regards to this conversation. Do stay with us.
I am for everybody, I am for nobody. No, not talk about me. No, in another way. How are you sure, sir? Keep quiet. I am in another way. I am for everybody, I am for nobody. The only area where Buhari defeats for that statement. Now we are concerned. Why are you talking about project? The project is fair as well. You say you need to spell as well. What does this done? But you say appointment. And in the type of appointment, you appoint people in front. But it be like this.
Global Television, building the nation.
We talk about the Civil War, but we seem to ignore the fact that it was the manipulation of ethno-religious sentiment that eventually boiled over into that tragedy.
I think this is a negative part of what we're experiencing.
No shooting anymore. We must come together as Nigerians.
We are brothers and sisters. Nigeria first before your politics.
We're all engaged in trying to keep the country united.
For a nation to develop, conflicts must be minimized.
Peace and stability is extremely important for
my hope and prayer is that the Nigerian of our dream will be achieved.
Global Television, building the nation. Global Television, building the nation.
We talk about the Civil War, but we seem to ignore the fact that it was the manipulation of ethno-religious sentiment that eventually boiled over into that tragedy.
I think this is a negative part of what we're experiencing.
No shooting anymore. We must come together as Nigerians.
We are brothers and sisters. Nigeria first before your politics.
We're all engaged in trying to keep the country united.
For a nation to develop, conflicts must be minimized.
peace and stability is extremely important for
my hope and prayer is that the Nigerian of our dream will be achieved.
Global Television, building the nation.
I'm telling you, when they get the position, then.
Why
una no come win it? Why una no win it?
Thank you, everyone, for staying with us on Global Morning here on Global TV. We are in Abuja, Nigeria's capital, on Star Times, channel 276. We would like to take you across a couple of Nigerian dailies this morning. Let's see what stories we'll find by way of headlines. So we'll begin with Blueprint. All right. Stories, as you can see on your screen, says live broadcast of proceedings, abuse of court process. Tinubu, and then you're wondering why has it become controversy that we're having a back and forth over live broadcast, whether proceedings should be broadcast live or not, and then you are asking yourself certain questions. I mean, who benefits if the proceedings were to be broadcast live? Is it in the overall interest of Nigerians? Are there legal implications? Are there technical issues that raise concerns naturally if we're to broadcast live? I mean, between whether to broadcast live or not, should the pendulum swing? Are there people who are not interested in the live broadcast of the proceedings? Are there implications if we were to broadcast live? We've also had these issues with regards to certain high-profile criminal cases in this country. And then, of course, when we had the Oputa panel back in the days of former President Olusegun Obasanjo, we had a bit of back and forth as to whether there should be a live telecast of the proceedings then. But of course, we know that we had, for the most part, those proceedings broadcast live. Till today, some of those videos are still flying around the internet. So I think that's one big conversation right now in our dear country. Okay, how NEPC failed to account for 264 million naira in 2019. That's according to the Auditor General of the Federation. With two riders just beneath that story, we made available necessary documents as requested. Management, incoming administration must fix the ruts in MDA's experts. Okay, and then if you take a look at just above the nameplates of the Blueprint newspaper today, it says Senate urges CBN to release 717.4 million naira trapped airlines funds. That also has been a long time coming. We are open to collaboration, NDDC tells Ajib Oil. Bauer advocates more international collaboration in asset recovery efforts. That's also from today's, from the Blueprint newspaper. Okay. Live broadcast of proceedings, abuse of court process. Tinubu says court not a soap opera. LP's factional chair, Papa Abure supporters clash in courts. All of that actually happened yesterday, by the way. Tribunal adjourns Obi's case to Friday. Okay, Friday is just tomorrow. Okay, let's take a look at the Punch for you. We'll take a look at the Punch newspaper now. All right, on the Punch, we also have a good number of stories there. But the big one, maybe you would say the biggest of them all, is PDP Labour Party cake as U.S. Secretary of State calls Tinubu. U.S. promises continued comprehensive security, economic cooperation. Atiku LP berates Blinken, say phone call demoralizing, worrisome. Confusion as LP factions clash at tribunal. Minister Capes resident doctors as strike grounds hospitals. All right, what's more from there? U.S. demands justice for slain consulate officials. That's something from Anambra State, southeast of Nigeria. Varsity admission with tears. Direct entry applicants sleep rough at JAMB office. Fake OK's $4.7 billion spoils development in Ondo, Lagos, Delta. What's more, Buhari presidency review too. Okay, so what else? We move on now and we take a look at the Nation newspaper for you. Let's move to the Nation newspaper and see what we have from the Nation. Quickly, on the front page of the Nation newspaper, it says, expect institutional reforms, Tinubu promises Nigerians. Expect institutional reforms, Tinubu promises Nigerians. U.S. Secretary of State calls President-elect on phone. On the Nation newspaper, Kayamo, let's see, okay, Kayamo charged fuming Atiku for criticizing Blinken's actions. All right, so that again is from the Nation. Unwilling to pay exhibit certificate fee, LP faction chair Apapa beaten up after a clash with Abure Group in court. And then you're wondering, did that fight had to happen, needs to be taken to the court premises? Well, that is one embarrassing scene that we saw yesterday. And those pictures certainly paper. EFCC writes outgoing governors Metawale beam searchlights on federal government agencies. Okay, that's some advice to the EFCC, all right, coming from the governor of Zamfara State. Okay, we also have a story from This Nigeria. All right, This Nigeria has quite a handful, actually, of headlines this morning. LP crisis festers as factions clash. LP crisis festers as factions clash in court, coming from This Nigeria. Okay, then you have a few riders under This Nigeria. It says tribunal fails to recognize acting chairman Apapa Obi Abure sponsored thugs against me in court, says embattled chair. He is supported by interested political state actors. NLC, they're speaking, just a few riders for This Nigeria. All right, currency depression pushes up public debts in sub-Saharan Africa, according to the IMF. Of course, you would always hear the multilateral institutions speaking about economies across Africa, particularly the big ones, Nigeria, South Africa, Rwanda, Kenya, Morocco, Algeria, Ghana, and the like. So in this case, they're particularly saying that currency depreciation pushes up public debt in sub-Saharan Africa. Okay, that's IMF. Okay, Akpabio at NN, when critical issues like this come up, because you have to seek, by all means, bipartisan support. Okay, so we still look at This Nigeria and see a few more stories from there. Says Senate directs CBN to release $717.4 million airlines, Anambra, Plateau, Benue. Okay, U.S. Secretary of State Blinken's call to Tinubu demoralizing, says Atiku. APC objects to PDP's request for live coverage. Incidentally, that's where we'll leave it today. But then remember that these headlines are not just text on paper. All right, they are just a summary of where the news is heading, basically what you should know as you make progress into your day. This is what we're living it on Global Morning, this very promising Thursday. Thank you, everyone, for sharing a part of your morning with us here on Global TV. Remember, we're on Star Times, channel 276. Okay, you can follow us across all social media platforms. The handle is at Global TV NG. I'm Muyag Mofwegbe. Once again, on behalf of the entire production team, saying big thank you to you. Have a great day.
Going on to now in another way. The only
area where Buhari defeat for that statement is only appointment. When you're talking about project, the project spread across. If you say you need to spread across, what does it mean? But if you say appointment, and in terms of appointment, you appoint people to trust. But if you like